All right, here we are. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Dan and Catherine and Sandy. And today we're going to be talking about Chapter 3 of The Soul of Money by Lynne. Hopefully you guys can see that. If you haven't gotten this book, there's a link below this video where you can jump over to Amazon and see the exact version that we are listening to and reading, because there's an audible version as well as the book version. And if you'd like to participate with us, there's also links below this video where you can jump over to our Facebook group and give us a shout and say, hey, I want to join in on the conversation. We would love to have you. But before we get going on this conversation, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. So guys, go ahead and jump out, and then we'll get this party started.
Hello, this is Catherine in Boulder, Colorado.
Hi. Sorry. Sandy Root here in Miami Beach. I'll be on and off. I have like 1,000 things going on in the background. But good to see you guys.
Are you with us still, Dan? Did we lose you? Oh, there you are.
I'm back. I just had to run to the restroom.
You gonna introduce yourself?
Sorry, I didn't realize you had started. I didn't see the live. Shows you how awake I am. That's the way my morning's been. I'm trying to wake up still. I'm Dan Sissick. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and looking forward to the next chapter that we're going to be getting into, and Soul of Money. Excuse me, I'm still trying to wake up. It's 7 o'clock my time, so I'm just waking up.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Dan. Oh, we appreciate you joining us, and it's wonderful that we all can get together this way, you know, from different parts of the country and have these kinds of conversations. So, thanks. I appreciate it. I know we all do. Okay, so today we're talking about Chapter 3 of The Soul of Money, and this particular chapter, she talks about a lot of stuff in this chapter. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of our thoughts on it in one hangout, but we'll certainly try. So scarcity, she's talking about the great lie of scarcity, and she says that there's 3 different main myths of scarcity, and I just wanted to kind of note a couple of things on here. Is that one of the biggest issues here with scarcity is that it's really just a belief. And, you know, I had a thought on that, was that, you know, I mean, there's no other thing that everybody can agree on other than this weird belief that we have around money and scarcity. And you know, she was saying in here that I just kind of pulled a few quotes randomly. I put them in the show description, but I wanted to read through these really quick. And she says, no matter who we are or what our circumstances, we swim in conversations about what there isn't enough of. And then she also says the mindset of scarcity is not something we intentionally created or have any conscious intention to bring into our life. It was here before us, and it will likely persist beyond us, perpetuated in the myths and language of our money culture. And so she talks about these 3 different myths of scarcity, and she encourages us to question these beliefs that we have around money, just like we would question, you know, anything else. And one of the things she kind of mentions in here later on in the chapter is about how she had beliefs around money relating to some of the things that her grandmother had taught her. And you know, when she was younger, she never questioned them, but then when she got older and she started seeing all of these things around money, she really started questioning those. And so she encourages us to question all of these beliefs that we have around money. So those were kind of some of the things that kind of popped up for me right there at the beginning. Do you guys have what were your thoughts? You know, before we examine each one of these beliefs, what was something that came up for you when you first read it?
Well, one of
Well,
the things, oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
no, go. You're already there, so I'll let you go.
She talks about how, from the before we ever even get out of bed in the morning, we're in a scarcity mindset. You wake up, you open your eyes, and the first thing you say is, I didn't get enough sleep. Or, you know, there's not enough time. I don't have enough time to do everything I need to do today. Or I don't have enough of whatever it is. Like she talks about how from the very moment that we wake up, that's where our mind is in scarcity. And I'm sad to admit that that's true. Like, a lot of times I wake up in the morning and I'm always grateful and thankful to be alive and awake in the morning, but I have to admit that perhaps one of the first things that crosses my mind is, oh God, I didn't get enough sleep. How am I going to get through today? And it's a habit, and it's uh, the older I get, the more I see patterns of what I would call um, collective consciousness. And I really do think that, and maybe, I don't know, but maybe this is why even the wealthiest of the wealthy wake up with the same thoughts and ideas of scarcity, is that it's like it's a collective consciousness that we're all tapped into. And the thoughts just come into our minds. That's why I had a bumper sticker on my other car before it died. It said, "You don't have to believe your thoughts," because thoughts just come without any inclination, and what we do with those thoughts is up to us. But I think there's a group consciousness that we're all plugged into somehow that just rolls these thoughts through us, and then it's up to us whether we believe them or buy into them or not.
I was gonna jump in and say, for me, even though I haven't gotten much time to read a lot of this, yes, I've been playing that whole consciousness thing this whole week. I haven't had enough time to do this. I haven't had enough time to do shopping for Christmas. I'm still not done. I'm not that, And even this morning, I woke up and said, I'm tired. I did not get enough sleep. Because when I did try to fall asleep last night, at first I started to fall asleep, then I woke back up again, and so it's very pervasive out there. But the part that kind of got me in reading it just a little bit, that where she says it's even pervasive even among those with abundance, like, but theirs is on a different level of what they don't have, or what they, or things like that. And it's really interesting to, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, you know, my view is changing a little bit on abundance, because I've gone through some really rough times over the last 7 or 8 years. Well, going on almost 10, ups and downs, and having enough, working, having things taken care of, covered, and then losing jobs and not having enough, and this and that. But somehow I've always seemed to at least manage to manage, and it's starting to change that. Um, I still worry and get caught up in it, but I'm lessening that grip on. It's like, okay, things will work out. It'll take care of itself. Just keep moving forward and keep doing what I need to do. But as long as I'm doing what I need to do, it will take care of itself. Maybe not to the level I wish it was, but the basics and things like that are definitely being taken care of. And so I'm starting to change some of my views on abundance to, there is enough, there is abundance, there is, I will be okay, to that type of thought.
I'll hop out, even though I don't have the book yet. Yeah, based on what you were saying about how we wake up in scarcity, like I never really thought about that. Wow, like And yeah, I pretty much do that every morning. Wake up in scarcity and like this anxiety of all the things and how am I going to do this and da 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 da. And yeah, it's a lot around scarcity. And something I noticed this week too is, I mean, I've been tired, but it's like I keep repeating it in my head. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I started catching myself like, stop saying that. Say you're energized. Say you have full of energy. So it's like all those things that we have to really watch every second, awareness of where our mind is going, and really, yeah, I'm going to start really looking at how I greet the day when I first wake up in that mode. And curious what else the chapter says.
The first thing, after reading through quite a bit of this, and one of the first thing that really, really struck me about this is kind of what you were, like what you were saying, Catherine, about the collective consciousness on this. But for me, I'm like looking at the world and I'm like, we can't agree on anything. We can't agree on politics. We can't agree on religion. We can't agree on, human rights. We can't agree on what is worth going to war for. We can't agree what, laws. I mean, everything, all these things, we can't agree on anything except for this idea that, there's not enough to go around, which just is, it boggles my mind that somehow or another in our human culture over the thousands of years is that that's the only thing that we've come to as a human race as a whole, is this scarcity mindset. And that it hurts my heart thinking about that we have all of these other things in our lives that we can, that could be positive and and a lot of people are trying to make changes and whatnot, but it just really boggles my mind how we can all agree on this one thing and we don't even realize that, hey, we're all in agreement on this. And it's as big of a lie as some of the other things that we've believed in history, and yet we're not really even questioning it yet. I mean, some of us obviously are, and Lynne obviously is, and I mean, I know there are a lot of people who are, but as a human race as a whole, is that we still are just, we, I don't even know how to respond to that. It's just it just really boggles my mind. So I really think I'm hoping that our conversation with it is going to spark people to really open up and realize that, oh, okay, we can question this just like we've questioned everything else. So let's do that. Let's see here. So let's see. I was going to read something else in here because she really was just um, just really stressing this whole aspect of it, is that no matter who you are, where you are, what your circumstances are, what your, how much money you have or you don't have, is that everybody just has this overwhelming feeling that there's not enough, and that we all of our conversations, all of our actions, all of our everything is based on this belief. And that it's just a belief, So, so anyway, let's kind of dig into some of these. So she was talking about three different. Of course, she starts out with this whole "it's not enough" part, and she lists off all these different things that we think we don't have enough of. We spend most of our hours and days and of our lives hearing, explaining, complaining, and worrying about what we don't have enough of. We don't have enough time, enough rest, enough exercise. We don't have enough work. We don't have enough profits. We don't have enough power, enough wilderness. Don't have enough weekends, don't have enough money, we're not thin enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, or fit enough, or educated, or successful, or rich, or ever, and I'm just like, geez, it's just as this mantra of not enough carries the day and becomes a kind of default setting for our thinking about everything, from the cash in our pocket, to the people we love, to our value of our own lives. What begins as a simple expression of the hurried life or even the challenged life grows into the great justification for an unfulfilled life. Justification for an unfulfilled life. And if we think about that, and we've talked about all kinds of different things in our different discussions where we've talked about relationships, we've talked about our own thoughts, we've talked about manifesting, we've talked about all these different things and just never even touched on the fact that maybe it's something, this deep-seated inner belief about this one thing that messes up everything else. And you know, even on the relationship side of it, I've watched so many people in my life, and I've done this when I was younger too, is think about all the inadequacies of the people in my life and how, you know, because of that, I'm, you know, unhappy. And that, how much sense does that make? I mean, you know, we've examined that and that our own thoughts are actually the problem and not that other person. But looking at this from this standpoint of, you know, is that we just have this belief that there's not enough. And because of that, that permeates every aspect of our life. It's just unbelievable. So I don't know, that was just something that came up for me that just was really digging in there going, ah.
Well, I was gonna just now jump out because in your little bit that you were going on about, um, and you're right, it is a very deep seated because you know we look at what society is training us to do too in our advertising and what we read about and how everybody, you know, people get put above other people by other people to other people. You know, if you're following my thought process, how we elevate, oh, this person's so great because of this, that, and the other thing. But yet in actuality, I don't think they're any really better in any special way. Yes, they may have attained more, or done some things that through things that we haven't done, and not, you know, because of fear and thus and less, and things we've covered in all our other discussions. But I think it's funny because I think I can tie this, you know, what she's talking about back a little bit to the book we just read, The Five Love Languages, how we get, like I said, this such deep seated rooted thing of, you know, well, we look at relationships and they're not this and they're not that and that, and how we learned how to learn to, you know, speak more of what they need into them. Well, how about we add into that there's plenty of abundance into the relationship, and that yes, they are enough because something was initially there that drew us to those people. And what was it? And go back to that positive part of it and look at that rather than the, oh, well, they're not living up to this expectation of what I want. And I think it, you know, it kind of ties together between how we react and how we ourselves operate and operate with other people, and first check ourselves and, you know, are we being enough, are we being abundant, are we being, you know, uh, everything that we can manifest for ourselves through what the, as I call it, God or the infinite intelligence, the universe has shown us that's available. That, you know, if we start changing our thoughts and focusing more on the positive, for lack of a better word, but you know, those things, the abundance, the positive, how we can take out, you know, what other people need and give them that, you know, those types of things. And I think it's interesting how it is a very deep seated thing in all of us, in every culture, in everywhere, even in cultures that, you know, don't know a lot about outside civilizations that they constantly periodically find, you know, that are more isolated. But even probably within them, I'm sure there are levels of, you know, maybe not to the extreme of like what we have, but I think it's just part of human nature, and we have to learn to flip it, for lack of a better way of saying it.
So she mentions in here in this one section is she's talking about the mindset of scarcity and our relationship with money being an expression of fear. And you know, it's interesting how, something so it seems to be simple, just this, there's not enough. We think there's not enough. We believe there's not enough. And because of that, all of our actions are fear-based, when it comes to money. And, I've noticed that in my own life is that, for as long back as I can remember, when it's relating to money, it's always been about fear. And, whether that's a fear of not having enough money to buy groceries or pay my rent or pay my bills or, provide for my children, or whether it's this fear that I'm not going to have money in retirement or that, my business is going to fail, that, all of these different things. And, and I can look back over our lives and see, okay, well, there really was no basis for this in so many different ways. But yet when you're like right in the middle of what's going on, it seems like it's just such a big deal. And just recently we had our truck was stolen. You guys know that, but anybody who's watching may not know. But our truck was stolen. And if I'd have saw ahead, oh my God, our truck is going to get stolen, then I'd be like, oh, I have to save this money and I have to put this aside because there may not be enough to, buy another truck, all of those different things. But, we've got this settlement, from the insurance company, and we've been reluctant to go out there and buy, another vehicle yet, because I'm like, oh, I have this money in the bank, and and it's a fair amount of money, and it's earning a little bit of interest, and I'd really like to buy a less expensive truck so I can keep this money in the bank because I might need it for something, and it's all of this is just fear, and and I've also haven't like been having conversations with, my friends and family and telling them, exactly how much I have for other fears, like these fears that they're going to be like, oh, well, can I have some for such or such, and why do I even have that? My family has never asked me for money for anything. And when they have, I've been like, oh yeah, here, you can have it. I don't need it at the moment or whatever. It's not, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And, but yeah, and right now, I could say, because of the way that I've been kind of managing my money over the past year, we probably have more money in our retirement than what we've ever had before. And yet I still am like, oh my God, I don't have enough money. And what am I going to do? And I just can't, and I have these fears about, getting older and I don't know, not being able to pay my bills when I'm older because I'm going to be old and broken down and not going to be able to work. It's just like it just goes on and on and on. All these different things. I mean, I don't know if do you guys have the same kind of stuff going on in your head? I mean, am I just the only person?
No, I'm still having it because, well, you guys know that, a couple years ago, again, I got let go of a job I had found back in 2012 and been with for 4 years, and wiped out this 401k savings that I had because I had to pull it out. And so I'm back to square one where I was, 8 years ago when I got let go and wiped out that 401k. And I'm looking at, and here I am, I'm, in my middle 50s and looking at, okay, 15, maybe 20 years, I'm going to be trying to retire. And how am I going to? I know Social Security, and already my mind's going, I know Social Security is not going to be enough, you know, and in reality, it's not, but my brain is, overemphasizing that. And so here I am, I'm trying to work, I've got a job, I've this, I've got issues with that. I'm thinking, okay, I really want, to move on and go on. But then I sit there and say, oh, but, I have it. It's right here. I've got, the income coming in. How am I, that all that fear based stuff, and it's like, it just pervades, and sometimes, you know, um, and I'll admit when you're operating in that fear, it affects everything because it affects your sleep, it affects you know, your makeup, how you react to things, how you respond and stuff. And that's not where we're supposed to be. Because I love Catherine's thought and how she, we are supposed to be that energy and that healing and that, person that can show and be that, and share that energy, the good energy, the positive stuff. And when you're in those mindsets, your vibrational stuff is so different, and it emanates out, and it seems like it just gets stronger rather than weaker until you can kind of change your thought process. So yes, I am very much there. Right with you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you too. Yeah, like you said, like it's this collective thing of this scarcity, and when we don't have enough, or and I've been in moments even recently where, I have loans and student loans and all this stuff coming up that's like and I see where my mind goes in this fear, and like, yeah, same thing. Like, am I going to have enough to retire? Am I going to, you know, how am I going to survive? Kind of feelings, like these deep core, and I think a lot of it is really old stuff, even from past lives. Just this deep core scarcity that we carry around, and it's almost like automatic that we go to these fear thoughts around money. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I have to say for now. But I totally understand and have all those same fears come up when money issues are in my life. And like you said too, Samantha, like you'll look back and say, well, why was I freaking out so much about that? Because everything, when I do look back, like everything has always been provided, even in the hard times. Like everything I need always gets filled, even if there's a moment of like, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to pay this or this and that? But when I look back, I always see, I've always been okay, and I've always gotten through those times. So to remember, like when it comes again, like I'm going to get through this. It's going to be okay. It's just I think it's like anything in our life. There's ebbs and flows. There's times where we're more prosperous. There's times where things can be tighter because of unexpected things. And it's just a normal process like anything else, like relationships or anything else in our life. There's ebbs and flows and things change, and just have to keep riding the waves. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, Sandy. It doesn't matter. It's interesting. Matt Kahn, you guys have heard me mention him. He says if you're still alive today, congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back. Like if you haven't taken yourself out by now with all of the stresses and fears and worries of our lives, you're doing good. And it's true, and we do go into these. I mean, sometimes I look back at the way that I act and respond and think about certain situations, and I look back and I go, good God, child, what was wrong with you? Because yeah, I'm still here. Like, and I don't know how. Sometimes I don't know how things were going to get paid, or I was going to eat, or whatever. And somehow I'm still here. Like, I'm still here. And it's interesting, like with health, I'm dealing with just a cold right now. And, it's not like I go into this downward spiral. Oh, I'm going to die, because I have a cold. No, I just accept that I got a cold. It's going to be here for a little while, and then it's going to be gone, and I'm going to feel great again, and I just keep going through the motions of the day. And I don't know why money has that grip, on us. But like, why aren't I that? And sometimes I am, sometimes I can just say to myself, stop being ridiculous. Everything's going to work out, but it's like I have the reaction before I even know it, and then I have to go back and console myself and say, now, that was an overreaction and that wasn't necessary and everything's going to be all right. But the reaction comes first. It's like the fight or flight response or something, it just kicks in there. And I wish that I could just stop that, because it does do things in your body. I mean, I wake up at 3 in the morning sometimes in just this state of anxiousness over things. And then, of course, I wake up saying I don't get enough sleep because I was up at 3 worrying about some stupid bill I have to pay. And I mean, how ridiculous is it? It's what we just torture ourselves. And anybody that's ever grown a garden knows that the world is abundant and that scarcity is a lie, because you grow a garden, you have enough to feed yourself, you have enough to put up for the winter, you have enough to share with every neighbor within a 10-mile radius. Like, nature is abundant. And what Lynne says in this book, there's more than enough food in this world to feed everybody 3 or 4 times over. There's really no reason for people to be starving in our world. And one of the most startling facts, and it just maybe shows how ignorant I am, I don't know, but one of the most startling facts of this chapter for me is that the United States is 4% of the world's population. 4%. Think about how much, quote, power the US has over the rest of the world, and we're only 4% of the population. And all of that power is based on money, and why we give so much value to money when we see how much it can corrupt. I don't understand. And if you don't have this book, you really should get it. If you can't get the hard copy, at least get the Kindle or whatever, because it will really change the way, or at least open your eyes and make you look at the way that you think about things. And she brings up so many of the same questions that I have. Why are there starving people? It's not lack of food. We know that. Is it distribution? I mean, we have the capability to distribute. There's no question about that. And she brings up the point that we can drop a missile anywhere we want to drop one, so we could be dropping food instead of missiles. But at the same time, then there's people that intercept that food, and then they take it and they sell it at higher prices, or they take it just for their people or whatever, because they're in this scarcity mindset. They're in this survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, anything goes. Like, you can rationalize anything that you do if you're in survival mode, and but it's all based on a lie. Like, that's it's just so crazy. And then she also brings out the point that, there's been numerous times where we've all pulled together and sent aid to certain countries or certain groups of people, and then it destroys their local economy. Like, anybody that's there that has a business that's growing food suddenly can't sell their food because there's an abundance of food, and then it makes people feel like they are inadequate and they can't support themselves, and then they're just waiting for someone to send more food, and it starts this vicious cycle of making everybody feel inadequate. And I have witnessed that just in my own, what little bit of charity that I've been able to provide for people. I have witnessed that exact same scenario, and I don't know what to do about it. And I hope that Lynne tells us in the next chapter or chapters to come.
I was gonna say, yeah, you brought up a point for me. Like, today, after I get done with this, I'm going to be going out and through my church organization. We do a outreach once a month to v- veterans that are homeless or are going through this one place where we've teamed up with called Veterans Village, and they have like 3 or 4 different villages as different steps of the progress of trying to get them off the streets and into jobs and housing and stuff. So we go and feed them lunch every fourth Saturday of the month. And yet, but then I see them and they come in and, they'll get one plate and then they'll, eat that and then they'll come back and ask for another plate to take back to take into their room to have for later. And seeing, some of the other homeless people, and I've seen it before when we would just do general homeless outreach, where they'd have these carts with all this stuff and you offer to help them carry their food or this or that or the other thing. And like, no, I got it. I can take care of it. That like, no, don't touch it. Cause once again, that scarcity, that, idea that, no, this is mine. Don't touch it. Don't get near it. Don't, the fear comes in and you're just offering to help carry their plate of food so they can go sit down and eat and get a good meal. And it's funny how that plays out, and yet how it plays out through all of us through different levels. Because even though I'm in my home, I'm here, but then there are times where it's like, no, don't mess with anything, don't do this, don't, that I get even at my level, and it's, just so weird to see, kind of have that a little more opened up to my eyes, and how, there are times when we as humans do get together and we do, you know, provide what's needed and give what's needed in times. And it's, I hate to say it, it's only during times of disaster or catastrophe or something, rather than an ongoing effort all the time. And that, hate to say it, politics and this and that and things, and greed and stuff get in the way, and that cause things to get in and ruin the natural abundance or the natural giving that's going on, that I think inherently we all would like to be able to do, if we could get over the fear of scarcity and the fear of not having enough. And because in this one little section I was reading that she was talking about, she says it, and this goes even back to when what type of work we do or how we live our day. We work jobs that we don't really like or don't really want to go to, because again, we're like, well, it'll take care of this, it'll cover that, or pay those bills, and so then we're not reaching our full potential for what we want to do, be able to do, and that's be able to help other people, be able to do, provide more for those we care about, and then be able to expand that. And it's just kind of weird how I was opening my eyes even more to some of those things, that just how pervasive this fear is that we have in us, and how ingrown and in it's almost like it's, if you're not in that, people look at you like there's something wrong. You know, like, why aren't you like everybody else? That kind of thought, and it just boggles my mind. Sorry.
When she's talking about these different myths, of course, and we've kind of touched on this one a little bit, the toxic myth number 2 of more is better. And of course, we all think, or not all of us, but she's talking about this relationship with money of more is better distracts us from living a more mindful and richly with what we have. And there's no end in a race with more, of more is better, because no matter how much you get, you're always going to be thinking that more is better. And and I feel like that's like the overwhelming mindset of the US. I mean, I think it's everywhere, but I see it so much every day in just this retail industry that I work in. It just boggles my mind how this just one tiny little store that I work in, and the amount of stuff that people buy that is just and they just keep coming back and keep coming back like it's food. It boggles my mind. And but she talks about more is better misguiding us in a deeper way. And she says it leads us to define ourselves by financial success and external achievements. We judge others based on what they have and how much they have, and miss the immeasurable inner gifts they bring to life. all of the great spiritual teachings tell us to look inside to find the wholeness we crave, but the scarcity chase allows no time or psychic space for that kind of introspection. And so then she talks about this myth number 3 of that's just the way that it is, and she discusses the life sentences that we kind of put ourselves through because of these beliefs of that's just the way it is, and there's nothing we can do to change it. And she talks about how it justifies greed and prejudice and inaction and scarcity, and it fosters our relationship with money and the rest of the human race. The myth of just the way it is makes it so that those with the most money wield the most power and feel encouraged and entitled to do so. And then she talks about how like these life sentences, like cultural life sentences, and she talks about how her grandma tells her that, you know, you should just marry somebody who's got a lot of money and then love will come later, and that's like a deeply held belief that her grandmother had. And then she also talks about what was it? Oh, she was mentioning like the starving artist thing, where we have it in our heads that you know, the starving artist is just like something that we say, and it helps us to devalue people who are artistic. And then you know, and also kind of reminds me, I think she even mentioned something in here about teachers and how, you know, all of these people who give to our society in the most positive and I don't know if I guess just the positive energy people that are putting these things out into the universe that are positive, and you know, like art and education and all of that, are like the least valued people in our culture. I mean, maybe not the least valued, but the ones that do like the hard work and they do the grunt work and they're trying to make the world a better place are the least valued. And then people, like she was saying in here, she was going on and saying, where was it? The oh, where was it? I know it was in here somewhere, but she was talking about how like the measurement of success is that whole more is better, and that, you know, the more money that you make or the more successful your business is financially is where you're measured, and that's the thing that misguides everything. And so I see situations like my husband, he and his buddies are, you know, right now they're trying to rally up other truck drivers to take a stand against some of these brokers and some of these bigger companies so they can get better pay. And um, and the thing that we've been seeing in the industry is there's all of these truck drivers. They don't make hardly any money, yet they're the ones that move the economy physically. I mean, they move everything everywhere, and yet they're so less, you know, so little value is placed on them. And people who are just like, here, I'm just going to connect you with this person, the brokers say, here, I'm just going to, you know, hook you up with the shipper, and I'm going to hook you up with the receiver, and I'm going to get this big old chunk of money, and then I'm going to just give you pennies over here to do this work, you know. And it you know, I can see this in so many different industries. I mean, we see it in the education system. We see it in, you know, well, I mean, she was talking about artists and stuff, but I mean, how many other different industries can you see in the world that are providing, you know, so much and then getting treated like crap? You know, I mean, just like all like the retail industry and all of the things that are going on and over in China, where people are barely being paid anything, and the people over here in the US are making these huge profits because they're, you know, basically exploiting these people in China. And I don't know, it's just, you know, because of this whole scarcity mindset, we devalue the people that are actually doing something that is valuable, which makes no sense, you know. So I don't know. It's you know, she was talking about how she listened to Buckmeister Phil. What is his name? I'm sorry, I got to get to it and make sure I say it right. Buckminster Fuller, and how back in the 70s he was giving these talks entitled Integrity Days, and how you know, for thousands of years, we've lived in this belief that there's not enough to go around. But then here in the 70s, he's saying, you know, we were able to do so much more with so much less, that each human family, we clearly had reached a point where there was actually enough for everyone everywhere to meet or even surpass their needs to live a reasonably healthy, productive life. This moment represented a dramatic breakthrough in the evolution of civilization and humankind, he said. But we didn't do it. You know, we didn't make that change where, you know, I mean, there's more than enough to go around. And if we were to change our mindset around money, somehow be able to reorganize our whole financial system, God only knows how we would do that. But if we were to able to do that, that everybody could be provided for and nobody would be left out. And it just, I don't even know how to get there. How do we get there? Because, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever watched any like, you know, sci-fi movies where they talk about in the future and, you know, it's some of the better ones, not the horrible ones where there's just mean people always trying to kill everyone, but like some of the better ones where they show this beautiful society and everything's all beautiful and wonderful, and you know everybody's taken care of, and people are focused on doing the things they love, and I, you know, I mean, how can we get to that? How with I don't know. I've just been rambling. Somebody else jump out and say something.
Well, I think that is something that we all would like to see and strive for. I think in the back of our minds, that's something we all want, but it's like none of us know that exact answer, and the way we think it should be, then somebody else comes up and says, no, it should be this, and somebody else. And so going back to, like you said, we can't even agree on, you know, except for this one scarcity thing, which and how that came about. I'm still don't even understand how that came about because it's pretty pervasive throughout, but yet how did that get to be the underlying facet of our lives that it has that stronghold of a grip on pretty much the world to where trying to break that. And yes, you know, there are a lot of us that see that and see the need for it to get broken and want it, you know, but goes back to your question, how do we do that? And, you know, maybe it's just really, you know, really believing in ourselves that yes, we can be that change, we can be that difference, we can start implementing those things one ripple at a time, and that might be the way it happens is one ripple at a time. And I'm getting the feeling that's how scarcity mindset came about, was one little ripple in time, you know, one ripple throughout time through different, you know, and so maybe that's, you know, one of the first steps too. Sandy, Catherine, any thoughts? 'Cause we're kind of
I want to read a couple of parts in here, and that just kind of readdresses these myths. She says, no matter what our economic circumstances, when we believe there is not enough, that resources are scarce, then we accept that some will have what they need and some won't. We rationalize that someone is destined to end up with the short end of the stick. When we believe that more is better and equate having more with being more smart or more able, then people on the short end of that resource stick are assumed to be less smart, less able, even less valuable as human beings. We feel we have permission to discount them. When we believe that's just the way things are, then we assume a posture of helplessness. We, we believe that a problem is unsolvable. We accept that in our human family, neither the resource rich members nor the resource poor members have enough money, enough food, or enough intelligence or resourcefulness to generate lasting solutions. And she says that this hunger project that she's involved with is systematically changing false assumptions about chronic hunger and food aid is one of the things that actually is helping more than to just simply give out food. And I'm sure she's still doing that, but it's education more than anything. And I feel like we can see that in our history in a lot of different ways. I mean, all of the different things that we've overcome as a human race, it's all about education or just opening someone's eyes to something. And because I think that a lot of times people don't even realize what's happening. I mean, I know that most people have no clue about what's happening in the trucking industry. They just go buy their groceries at the grocery store and they don't care how they get there. And, and the same thing goes for, way back when slavery was a thing, is that, people didn't care because they just wanted their cotton to make their fabric. And it's just they didn't care about what was actually happening. And it wasn't until they were enlightened on that they realized, oh my God, this is what's really happening. We need to stop this. We can't live with ourselves because of that. And but this whole thing where it says, just the way it is, and then we just kind of just justify it because, we can't do anything, or we think we can't do anything because that's just the way that it is. And, but I also, I sit here and I see the enormity of what has to change in order for things to be different. And it, it's overwhelming, and I don't know how to fix it. And I guess, of course, we've talked before on being like the ripple in the world, in our own world, because we can do these little things and that ripples out. And I guess that I just hope that by having these conversations, talking about this book and just spreading just a little bit of word that, hey, things can be different, and we need to work in a different way, even if we're just doing the tiniest little thing, is that somehow that's going to ripple out into 100 years from now and things will be different. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I sure hope so. I think that we do relieve a lot of our guilt with that. Well, it's just the way it is, or life's a bitch, or however we choose to word that. And unfortunately, for many people, as long as their family is comfortable and has enough, that's they feel so overwhelmed in just trying to provide for their own family that once their family has eaten and the bills are paid for the month, they just pass out from exhaustion, and that's as far as their energy can go. But a lot of that energy is drained from that fear that they live in, from the scarcity mindset that they don't even realize is controlling them. And yeah, I don't know how to fix it either. That's why I said I hope she tells us how to fix it in this book, because what little bit of things I've tried to do to help people, it just seems like a lot of times it backfires, and then I'm just standing there with a boggled mind going, okay, now what do I do? I feel bad if I don't help. I feel bad if I do help. And yeah, the trucking industry is a mess. And look at teachers. Of course, you couldn't pay me enough to be a teacher. So underpaid. Police officers, so underpaid. Nurses and stuff, so underpaid. Firemen are almost never paid. Think about that. Think about putting on one of those suits, dragging around all that heavy equipment, walking into I don't know how many degrees, hundreds of degrees in heat, putting your life at risk to save someone's home, or, you know, or if someone's trapped inside or whatever. And most of them are volunteers. Almost all of them are volunteers. Even the ones that do like the big, like the big wood fires and stuff that go on in California and different states. There's, as a matter of fact, I had a guy the other day, a rider in my car as an Uber driver who, that's what he does. He travels around and fights all these fires that are going on in all these different states. And he just lives out under the stars with a backpack with, you know, what he can carry, and he just fights these fires. And that's all volunteer. And it's, and yet we have, and granted, I'm not a sports person, okay? But I'm just saying. Then we have these sports people that play 16 games a year, unless they make the playoffs, 16 games a year, making millions and millions of dollars, you know? And I don't know where we got off track and where we lost the value for the people who are really, and I'm not saying that sports doesn't provide value, it does provide value, but I just think it's so out of proportion. You know, there just needs to be some sort of happy medium somewhere where these people who are saving lives every day need to be better compensated, or at least equally compensated, or I don't know, something. Something is just way off kilter, and I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, it does. It just boggles my mind how overvalued things that have so little value are compared to the things that have great value, and they are just, you know, they're basically considered valueless. You know, it's so askew. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. And you know, but I see it in my own life, and just the littlest things, you know, is that I will justify for whatever stupid reason, God only knows, that, you know, going out to eat in a restaurant, spending extra money to do that is more valuable or is more justifiable, or it's more okay. I don't know what's going on in my head. Somehow or another, that's more okay than me going and doing something for my physical health, like going and getting a massage or doing acupuncture or aromatherapy, or, you know, anything. There's a place right around the corner that has like a little wellness center, and they do acupuncture and massage, and they have like an infrared sauna, and I'm like, oh, that sounds so great. And another place over here, it's called the Better Being Float Center, where they have those pods and you can float in them, like the sensory deprivation. I'm like, that would be so cool. And for whatever reason, I can't justify spending money on that stuff, you know? And how much sense does that make? It makes no sense. And, you know, I really am like, okay, well, you know, if I'm going to do that, it's like, you know, that'd be like a birthday present for myself. I got to save up for it. You know, it's not, but yet I can go out to eat every freaking day of the week, just about, not feel anything about that. And that makes no sense to me at all. I'm just like, I really have to examine that, because, I mean, this is just, I don't know. Who knows? I don't, it's in my own head. I realize that. And, you know, and I wonder, it's things that we all have, these things in our head that we, you know, one thing's okay and the other thing's not okay. And God only knows why, you know, it's just this crap that we have in our heads. But, you know, here at the end of the chapter, she says, we often philosophize about the great unanswered questions in life. It's time we looked instead at the unquestioned answers. And the biggest, most unquestioned answer of our culture is our relationship with money. It is there that we keep alive, at a high cost, the flame and mythology of scarcity. So, yeah, we definitely need to be questioning that. So, guys, we're at the top of the hour. Do you guys have any final thoughts you want to throw out there before we wrap it up for today? Sandy, are you out there? Nothing else?
I'll just say my mind's boggled. That's all.
Yeah, something to seriously think about.
I
Okay.
don't really have much to add other than we just need to really examine our relationship with money and how we think about it, and not just money but energy and health and everything. This scarcity mindset prevails across a lot of different things besides just money in our lives. And because I know personally, people that have health issues and the doctor tells them they're going to be a certain way and they accept that, and they just are that way, even though science shows us that the body regenerates and heals itself and renews itself. You have new body parts constantly, like every few days or something. It's crazy when you look up the facts on how the body regenerates, and yet people condemn themselves to a life of misery and pain and not thinking that things can be better and doing the things to make it so, because they just say, well, this is the way it is. So we really need to, each one of us, look at every part of our lives and where we're accepting, where we're taking that stance. That's just the way it is, because that's bullshit, and we need to get over it. And yeah, that's it. I guess that's all I gotta say. I love you guys. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, everyone. And we appreciate you and hope that you'll join us here and get this book and start questioning some of your own beliefs around some things. Because that's how we grow and that's how we make things better for people. Because I mean, we do. I still, that 4% still blows my mind, but we we have a lot of um, we have a lot more advantages than many people have, and I think we can make a difference if we can just get over some of these scarcity beliefs. So, love you guys.
Well, it's been a great chat, guys. And it's something else that just popped up for me before we wrap up for today, and I have realized that there are people out there that are doing stuff to try and make a change, and they're trying to open your eyes to possibilities. So, like, so, even some of these shows that obviously, I mean, they're doing it to make money or whatever, but they talk about simplifying your life or homesteading or passive energy homes and how they're doing these different things in the world and to try and make changes. And I know that maybe they're not specifically thinking about changing, our mindset around money, but they are trying to change our mindset around our resources. And maybe that's one of the ways that it starts is just, because one of the things that came up for me in one of these parts was um, she was talking about needs versus wants, and I was like, yeah, we really got to question, what do we really need versus what is a want, and determine whether or not those wants are actually, you know, detrimental to us. Maybe we need to question this as a whole, as a human race, is that, do we want this stuff just because we think we ought to have it, because we think we need more, or because we think that that's what we're just supposed to do, or there's nothing we can do, and so we just want these things, or are we looking at the future? Maybe we need to kind of think in terms of not just our own future, but the future generations of, if this thing that I'm getting or having or doing, the thing that I am spending my money on, is something that's not going to benefit the future in some way. I mean, maybe that's our contribution, is to just really examine where we are letting our money flow, and are we letting our money flow in a way that supports our fears, or are we letting our money flow in a way that supports um, our positive beliefs in the future? I don't know. Well, guys, it's been a great talk today, and I love having you on here. And for those of you who are watching, if you'd like to participate with us, jump over to our Facebook group. It's you can find it by going to mindsetmasterycollective.com, and there'll be a link below this video on YouTube where you can just click on it, go right over to our Facebook group, jump in there, um, you know, give us a shout and let us know you want to participate, because we'd certainly love to have you. And if you want to get notified of our next hangout, then click subscribe on the YouTube channel and give us a like here if you like this. Share it with anybody you think it would benefit. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week on Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.